That night, Mary slipped into Nick's room. She didn't want to sleep alone. She wanted to sleep beside him. Nick had only just found her that very day, because earlier he had met a beautiful girl for the first time. The girl was a genie, and she had come out of a vase. The moment she appeared, she wanted to be close to Nick. Actually, it all started when Nick was walking along the beach. His pet dog, Julie, was with him. Nick's house was very close to the shore, which is why he came there to walk every day. There was a time when Nick used to sing. He was a singer, but now he had given all that up. After walking for a while, Nick sat down in a quiet spot. He took out his food and started eating, feeding Julie as well. As soon as he finished eating, he was about to rest when he suddenly looked toward the ocean. It seemed to him that someone in the water was crying out for help. Nick panicked and ran toward Noble's house because he didn't know how to swim very well. But when he got there, he saw that the house was in bad shape and no one was inside. Without wasting any time, Nick used a broken window for support and without thinking twice, ran straight toward the ocean. Within moments, he jumped into the sea. Noble happened to be walking nearby. He saw Nick struggling in the water and immediately realized that Nick couldn't swim. So Noble jumped into the ocean to save him. He couldn't see anything clearly. He only had the illusion that someone else. He noticed a vase. Just then, Leo arrived at the scene. Quickly, Leo pulled Nick out of the water and saved his life. The two of them were friends and often visited each other's homes. After getting out of the water, Nick thanked him. Noble was happy that Nick had been saved. After a while, Nick took the vase home with him. He placed it on the table and started doing some household chores. His eyes then fell on his musical instruments, something he had completely given up. Nick lived alone in that house. After finishing his work, he lay down to rest for a bit. That night, Nick got on his bike and headed to a nearby bar. His dog Julie followed him, but Nick didn't pay much attention. When he reached the bar, he met his old friend Maria. It had been a long time since they had seen each other, so Nick joined her at a table for a drink. However, Maria worked at the bar, so she couldn't drink with him. After Maria left, that's when a man named Mason approached him. Mason owned a music company, and Nick knew him well. Mason wanted Nick to start singing again and perform for his company, but Nick clearly refused. Mason even tried tempting him with money, yet Nick still wouldn't agree. The truth was, just last month Nick had argued with his younger brother Jimmy. Jimmy also wanted to sing and had asked Nick for help, but Nick had refused. Angry and hurt, Jimmy left the house. On the way, he got into an accident and died. Since that day, Nick had completely stopped singing. After his brother's death, he kept thinking that if he had helped Jimmy, maybe the accident wouldn't have happened. When Nick returned home, the first thing he did was clean the lamp. Then he sat down beside it to rest for a while. While cleaning it, he rubbed it hard. Suddenly, strong winds began blowing around the house. The lamp started glowing brightly. Seeing all this, Nick became frightened. And then, all of a sudden, an incredibly beautiful girl emerged from the lamp. Nick watched everything in shock. As soon as the girl stepped out, she said, "My name is Mary, and I am your servant." Nick paid less attention to her words and more to her beauty. Realizing this, Mary put on one of Nick's shirts. As she stepped closer to him, Nick nervously backed away. Mary then explained that she would grant him 3 wishes and then leave. Nick didn't believe her. Trying to stay composed, he jokingly said that he wanted to see rain right now. The moment he said it, Mary used her magic, and instantly it began to rain. It never rained where Nick lived, so he was completely stunned. The rain became so heavy that water started dripping through the roof of the house. Nick stood there in disbelief, while Mary looked extremely happy. Both of them were soaked, and Nick soon began to feel cold. After a while, Mary sat beside Nick. They warmed themselves in front of the fire. Mary was thrilled that the first wish had been fulfilled. She wanted to complete all 3 wishes quickly so she could be free. She asked Nick about his second wish, but he replied that he didn't have any wishes and that she could leave. Hearing this, Mary explained that she could only leave after granting 3 wishes. Nick truly had no wishes, and Mary couldn't go anywhere. Finally, Mary decided she would stay with Nick until all 3 of his wishes were fulfilled. After that conversation, Nick went to his bedroom to sleep. Mary followed him and said she wanted to sleep there too. Nick wasn't comfortable with her yet, so he left the bedroom and went to sleep somewhere else, while Mary stayed and slept there. The next day, Nick was standing outside his house while Mary looked through his clothes to see what might fit her. After a short while, Nick came back inside. Mary again asked why he wasn't telling her his remaining 2 wishes. That's when Nick told her about his brother Jimmy's death. He said that when his brother died, all of his wishes died with him. That night, Nick took Mary to the same bar he often visited. They sat together and drank. Leo was also at the bar that night. When he saw his friend with such a beautiful girl, he became jealous. Teasingly, he told Nick that the girl was beautiful and asked to be introduced to her. Hearing that, Nick got angry. Upset, he left the bar with Mary. They had both drunk quite a lot that night, and when they got home, they ended up spending the night together in the same bed. The next morning, when Nick woke up, he didn't find Mary Mary in his bed. He immediately became worried, wondering if she had left. He stepped outside and saw her sitting by the edge of a small pond. Nick walked over to her. Mary looked very happy. After all, Nick had spent the night with her. Nick sat down beside her, and the two of them talked for a while. After that, they went to the beach. When night fell, they once again spent the entire night together. The following morning, and went to the beach where he was playing with some children. In the house next door, his friend Leo was there. Just then, a girl named Sophie arrived. Sophie, who had once loved Nick, told Leo that she wanted to talk to Nick somehow. Leo explained that there was now another girl in Nick's life and that he probably wouldn't want to meet her. But Sophie insisted and requested that Leo help arrange a conversation with Nick. After her repeated requests, Leo agreed to try and went to talk to Nick. Meanwhile, Mason showed up. He knew that Sophie and Nick had once been close. Mason desperately wanted Nick to start singing again, which is why he approached Sophie, hoping she could convince Nick. But Sophie refused because she knew Nick well and understood that he wouldn't agree just because of her. Angry, Mason went directly to Nick and asked him once again to sing one of his songs. But Nick refused again. Mason lost his temper and began saying harsh things to him. Nick started getting angry too, and before he completely lost control, he chose to return home instead. That night, Nick went to bed with Mary. The next morning, Mary busied herself with household chores. She had almost forgotten that she was a genie and that she was supposed to fulfill Nick's wishes and then return to the vase. They had been living together for many days now, and during that time, they had begun to fall in love. Mary cooked for Nick, and he happily enjoyed her meals. One day, Mary told Nick that she loved him deeply. She confessed her feelings, but Nick said nothing. When she asked him if he loved her too, Nick stood up and said that he could not fall in love with a genie. Hearing this broke Mary's heart. She asked him to tell her his remaining 2 wishes so she could fulfill them and leave his life. But Nick still didn't name any wishes. Because of this, Mary became very angry with him. A few days later, Sophie met Leo again and asked him to somehow convince Nick to sing so that she could earn some money as well. Sophie was very poor and needed Nick's help. Leo agreed to try. Meanwhile, at home, Nick and Mary's relationship had begun to strain. Jealousy had started growing in both their hearts. One evening, Mary prepared dinner and then fell asleep at the table. Nick gently picks her up, carries her to the bed, and apologizes for what he had said because deep down, he loves her too. Just then, Mary comes close to him and tells him that she's going out with Leo that day. Nick tries to stop her and even yells, but Mary is still hurt by what he said earlier. She still loves Nick just as much, but she only wants him to realize her importance. After a while, Mary gets ready and leaves with Leo. Soon, the two of them are out drinking together. Meanwhile, Nick sits at home drinking alone. He doesn't like the fact that Mary went out with Leo at all. The moment she leaves, he realizes he can't live without her. Leo and Mary are trying to enjoy themselves, but Mary begins to realize how much she truly needs Nick in her life. She steps aside to a quiet corner and starts thinking about him. Back at home, Nick keeps drinking, lost in thoughts of Mary. He's drunk now, but he fully understands his feelings. He decides that no matter what, he wants to apologize to her. At that moment, Sophie comes to see Nick to talk about Mason. Nick is heavily intoxicated, so Sophie makes him some coffee to sober him up a little. While drinking the coffee, Nick tells Sophie everything about Mary, that she's a genie who came out of a vase. He also confesses that he loves Mary very much and is going to her. After telling her everything, Nick leaves, but Sophie's eyes fall on the vase sitting there. A little later, Nick reaches Mary and asks her to come home, but Mary refuses. She says, "You don't love me, so I don't have to listen to you." She's still very angry. Nick wants to take her home so he can tell her how much he loves her, but Mary believes he just wants to tell her his remaining wishes, so she tells him to state his wishes right there and then leave. In anger, Nick says his second wish is to have an ordinary girl in his life. Hearing this, Mary replies that he will soon have an ordinary girl. Then, in frustration, Nick states his third wish, that Mary should go back forever to wherever she came from. As soon as Mary hears his final wish, she becomes weak and collapses. Nick supports her and somehow takes her home. The reason Mary became ill is that she truly wanted to return, but she didn't have her vase. By this point, she had fulfilled all 3 of Nick's wishes. His third wish was for her to return to where she came from, but to complete it, the vase was necessary. Soon, Nick realizes that the vase is with Sophie. He rushes to her house, but she isn't there. At that moment, Sophie is sitting by the ocean with the vase beside her. Out of greed, she had taken it, but she has no idea how to summon the genie from it. When Nick can't find Sophie, he starts heading back home. On the way, he runs into Leo and asks him where Sophie is. Leo refuses to tell him anything. everything. Saddened, Nick returns home, realizing that everything he said to Mary was wrong. He understands that Mary's condition worsened because of him. He then takes her to the beach. Within moments, Mary enters the vase and Nick throws it into the ocean. He cries deeply in her memory and even decides to walk into the sea himself. The next morning, Nick is still at the beach. After Mary's departure, he is so broken that he spent the entire night there. When he wakes up, he notices a girl walking along the shore. She approaches him and asks if he's okay. She looks exactly like Mary. Nick is stunned, but within moments, he understands that Mary has fulfilled his second wish as well. His second wish was to have an ordinary girl in his life, and now she stands before him. In the final scene, Nick and the girl who looks like Mary both gaze toward the ocean, and with that, the movie ends.